Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Oppression is very dangerous to people because oppression is instituted by the method of isolating people and destroying the integrity of any defenses they have. Oppression frequently is interpreted as a habit that causes its victims merely a suffocation of free will, which appears to be applied very passively as a consequence of things that are not specifically correlated with it. Oppression is much more dangerous than this notion of its passivity. Oppression, when cited in its element, is an explicitly hostile behavioral conduct. The recognition of sovereignty, according to the international law, has been unconditional, even when given criminal conduct that wildly exceeds the entitlement of a state over the people, although it is known that conduct such as this is a danger to the security of the state, and with international law, penalties can be imposed. At large, there is a clear lack of remedy to the people. In the name of Allah, the expander, the abaser, the knower of subtleties. Tracing the nation's equity liquidation to specific actors is complex, but it is publicly available information that could be compiled. In the first several decades of the 14th century, the structure of government power underwent several transformations. The first transformation was international trade, where with massively consolidated exportation, there was able to be installed a solid institutional economic power, whereas monarchy is a form of government that had been challenged with the development of parliaments in the 8th century. The expansion of export volume was established as a conduit of immense power in the state. These export volumes exceeded any of those in history, including the infamous British Empire, upon whom they said the sun never sets. The colonies and exploits of the British were unique to world history, such as, for example, the British colonies of North America, and that after declaration of independence have excelled development to now, the United States of America. The foreign projects of the British are unique and give precedence to such operational modes of a formal governing party in export, trade, colonization, settlement, especially concerning distance and enforcement for viability, constitution, expenses, development services, with some practicality and sensibility that initial investments can improve one's gain in resource utilization, and it does not justify unbounded exploitation on the backs of other persons' labor strengths and the nation's raw materials. It was hence from that virtue for the abolition of slavery went, and that enforcement of labor laws advance, especially minimum wage. And it is from the same precepts that the nation's power deteriorates in the schemes that are exfiltration of equity. There is spending and accumulation in luxury, while diminishing the growth in real investment. Investment in stocks is perhaps the utmost destruction of equity, because it facilitates the liquidation of the company's equity and bearing no guarantees in real tangible asset building. The rate of equity liquidation is more frequent and is put higher in priority than growth in equity. Putting this motion into exportation of national product is a form of liquidating the nation's equity. Perhaps many nations fancy themselves as in such abundance or extraordinary or in the favors of a foreign nation that massive exportation is viewed as a positive strategy. What is the comprehension of this exchange as accumulating wealth to the company owner, giving some labor force employment, and otherwise contributing nothing to the equity of the nation? There is no national development out of exportation because it is designed for the company owners to gain wealth exclusively. This disorients commerce of what should be its natural tendency of infrastructure enrichment in the territory. True equity is easy to be subverted when exportation is relied upon, and true equity is most prey to being floundered when exportation is relied upon. There are a number of industries and markets that by bilateral trade agreements will improve the variety and options in the nation. These are codependencies of the national equity, and in major proportions, this does not necessarily contribute to the national equity. These can be very liquid articles in trade. Real equity in the nation is infrastructure, utilities, and factories. Liquidation of equity includes everything that is spent that does not contribute to the development of more equity. Tracing the nation's equity liquidation to specific actors is complex, but it's publicly available. We can compile. Allahu Akbar.